Back with Jono again, and now we're talking about the second part of the Kalicube Framework, which is activate for the algorithms. So I've shown you the Kalicube Framework. Jono, what do you think?
I think this is great. I think this does a really good job of splitting out all of the individual steps that brands need to go through. I think people have had historically a kind of oversimplistic mental model for this, and Google certainly haven't helped with that in their comms. I think being clear that there is a difference, for example, between recruitment and grounding, and even further back, the rendered versus index we talked about previously. I think it's super important to understand that, because each of these is a gate. And there are mechanisms by which you can skip some of those gates. You've talked about that. But I think it's super important to understand that you have to sequentially qualify and pass each of these. Otherwise, the rest of it can't happen. And yeah, people don't think enough about where am I getting stuck on this.
Brilliant. So starting with Annotate, this is the one that I heard from Fabrice Canel in 2019 on an interview. And I thought, that's super important. I'm going to talk about it. I've been talking about it. And I don't hear anybody else talking about it. For me, and maybe I'm not listening to the right people. Maybe people are talking about it in the sense of when the engines put the content in the index, they break it down into chunks. They put it into their proprietary format and put little post-it notes on saying what the entities are, what the relationships are, whether it's geo-sensitive, whether it's time-sensitive, whether it's kid-friendly. And then they put a confidence score on that. And those are the elements that the algorithms are then using to select the content rather than the content itself.
Yep.
Now, number one, is that true? And number two is, are other people talking about it and I'm just not listening?
I think that's broadly true. I think this is part of the broader vectorization process, which some people talk about, but it tends to be only in the kind of very technical terms. I think, there is definitely a process, and this is a fairly standard part of how all modern search engines work, which is it's not efficient to store and then look up and retrieve and serve all the raw text from every web page. So they're not literally crawling the web and saving every web page and then putting it in a big database. That's not efficient and it's not easy to query. What you want to do is turn all of that into numbers, and you want to abstract all of that away into something that a machine can far more easily evaluate, slice, dice, etc. Labels is a great word for it. And those labels might be anything and everything. It might be this page is long, this page is short. It's geo, it's about cats. It's written on a Tuesday. It's blah, blah, blah. It has the word banana on it. Like those labels all exist in a kind of infinite dimensionality. And then when you want to say, okay, this person has searched for this phrase, or we want to find results that are about this topic or that were written on a Thursday, you can perform mathematical functions on the corpus of all of that n-dimensional database to say, okay, we have this document which is here, this document which is over there, this document which is down here, but need blah, 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 blah. In n-dimensional space, you go, here are the closest ones. And then you can also go, actually, we know that this person has this particular search history, or that geography is important for this type of search, perform different maths on the same set and rotate it, invert it, blah, 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 find the best fit. And this is very complicated maths, but it's essentially just addition and subtraction of concepts through different vector space. So the idea that they're kind of looking at words on pages is definitely oversimplified. They are turning all of your content and all of your branding and all of your images and all of your schema into raw concepts and numbers and labels, and then they're performing maths on those. And the practical implications of this is it means it's super important that you are super clear and that you write using the kinds of language that your audience are looking for, and that you write using simple language, and that you don't write very, very long or very, very short sentences, and that you structure your content in readable, well-structured, sequential blocks that can exist on their own. All the rules of good standard writing, right? None of this is SEO stuff. It's just write clear information that's well-structured. Don't bury the lead. Don't wait till the very end to answer the question. Because then when this maths happens on the page and it all gets turned into numbers and vectors, you want the key bits to survive, which means having it well-structured in the first place.
Right. I don't think I've ever heard anybody explain vectorization in such a handy and helpful way. Thank you very much.
Nice.
Is there a question of what's at the top of the page and what's at the bottom of the page? You just said don't answer the question at the bottom of the page. Is that because as a human being, we want the answer at the top, or there's a mathematical advantage to being at the top?
There might be. We don't really have much insight into how these systems work or how the ingestion processes work, but it wouldn't surprise me. Like if you wanted to write that maths from scratch, even if you didn't know anything about maths or vectorization or search engines, it's probably a reasonable estimation to say if this is a page that's meant to answer a question, then in theory, a good page that does that well would answer the question fairly early on, which means that first paragraph might be more important than the rest. Maybe, but maybe that's a label that gets applied partway through that process. Maybe there's a separate evaluation process. Yeah, either way, it feels like that's a sensible thing to do.
Right. Next question is...
No more maths.
Google... Oh, no, Google actually asked me not to talk about chunking.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
Because I think people have got obsessed about the technical maths part of this answer. And rather than thinking, I should write a really good page, which is really well structured, which has nice subheadings and helps users answer the question, they have immediately gone to, I should precisely subdivide all of my paragraphs and words so that they are mathematically perfectly aligned in a way that a machine might extract and vectorize. And they forget that the actual objective is write something that helps humans. And it's become this term which is synonymous with that kind of artificial structure of content rather than providing utility, etc.
Which is really frustrating because, I mean, there are two things. Number one is, chunking is a thing. And so all I'm saying with chunking is what you said, have some nice headings with logical paragraphs that actually answer a question, make sure it's organized with semantic HTML5, because it makes it easier for the machine to actually figure out what the chunks are. And it's not saying, try and beat the mathematical machine. And it's a similar thing with links, is that I'm saying, from your entity home website, link out to the proof. If possible, get the link back. And I'm saying that the link out is enough, but the link back is a bonus. And all of a sudden, Jason's a link builder.
Oh no! Yeah. I see. Yeah, but this is a great problem with SEO and always has been, right? Is people see in isolation one thing that looks like a lever you can pull, and then they pull the lever till it breaks, and they never understand that. And then they get the next lever, and they never understand that actually that wasn't the game at all. So yeah, that's frustrating.
Brilliant. Okay, super duper. So on to recruitment. Now, for recruitment, I'm looking at LLMs, knowledge graphs, and search engines. So LLM intelligence, search engine information, knowledge graph, verification, validation. They all recruit. Search engines are recruiting in real time to give real-time information. LLMs are recruiting for the training data, and knowledge graphs are recruiting for their training data to figure out the facts and build that machine-readable encyclopedia. So there are effectively two different speeds of recruitment. In fact, three, because they all have different speeds. Number one, what do you think of that approach? And number two, what do we do? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so the different speeds thing is interesting, right? Because Google has got faster over the years. It used to be that there was always a delay between writing a thing, getting indexed, etc. That's come much closer to real time now. And now we've taken a step back where if you want to influence what an LLM says about you, influencing the content that exists today might tweak some of the RAG stuff and the real-time retrieval stuff, but it's not going to have the deeper impact that having had already affected the training material would. And if you, I don't know, if your business has a bad reputation, or if you're a brand new business, you are going to find it disproportionately difficult to shake the impact of that because the training data is updated slowly and in periodical bursts. And I guess the practical implications of that are you have to...
and just what you're saying, periodic bursts, but it's also what's being corrected depends on the human engineers deciding what needs to be improved.
Hugely biased. Yep.
So, for example, a knowledge graph update of 3 years ago was the number of people in the knowledge graph tripled. So they'd obviously figured out we need more people, gave it a big data lake, sorted through it, got it more or less clean, and then fed it in with a specific aim of getting more people in. So if you were a corporation and you were hoping that that knowledge graph update was going to do you some favors, it definitely wasn't, or almost certainly wasn't, because that's not what they were focusing. So you've got the delay and you've got the bias of what they're trying to train it for.
So the whole landscape shifts every 18 months in unpredictable ways. Isn't that fun? Yeah. And I don't know if there's much you can do about this practically. Like, so you want to...
Well, be prepared for whatever's going to come. Make sure you're prepared as soon as you possibly can. Sorry, go ahead.
Yes, and have a perfect reputation and a perfect website, and have invested in all of the things so that you've bet on the right one. Yeah, and then hope that you can mitigate any kind of stuff that gets stuck in the training data by affecting the RAG stuff. Yeah, tricky.
But then when stuff gets stuck in the training data, we've got multiple clients who are dealing with reputation issues, and that's the big question: is saying, well, you're going to have to wait a year. We need to put the stuff in place today. You need to wait a year, and you have to understand that each of these LLMs is going to update at a different time with different priorities.
Yep.
And you've got to be patient, and you've got to be careful, and you've got to cover all your bases, and that takes time and it takes resources.
And the even scarier stuff is some of this becomes recursive because one system is looking at another and ingesting their legacy bias into their training data, etc. So once stuff is in the training data, it's very, very hard to get it out. And I wonder what this does for risk, because most successful companies grow through kind of trial and error. So they launch a thing, they hit the ground running, and they get, I don't know, a terrible reputation for bad delivery. And they fix that, and 5 years later, everybody loves them. But now the impact of that period of failure might be baked into the long term. And it means the cost of kind of trial and error and what was Facebook's famous phrase? Move fast and break things. That ideology might now mean that you get kind of permanently poisoned. So I think brands might need to be much more careful and get fewer things wrong early on. And then also things like, I don't know, your CEO has a scandal or a product explodes, but these things might leave indelible marks. So the cost of getting things wrong becomes far more expensive.
Which is a phenomenally good point. And actually, the reason I started Kalicube was because Google thought I was a cartoon blue dot. And the weight of evidence was completely... But you can change it because it's a change of perspective. So the approach I invented or created or adopted was change the perspective of the machine by demonstrating what's important, truly important for both me and for my audience.
Yes, absolutely. Because the ultimate user behavior out of that feeding back in, as you well know, and your whole system kind of reinforces, is what shifts that behavior and shifts the perception. Definitely. I think there's not enough people in SEO thinking about the things I should be doing should be changing the way people behave in ways that leave signals that machines can use to better understand.
Oh, sorry, you've just in 20 seconds explained the mirror principle, which is basically AI's opinion of the world's opinion of you. And the fundamental idea is change the way people perceive you and make sure the machines can ingest it, at which point the machines will reflect what they're seeing.
100%.
And that's it. So I prefer your explanation now. I'll steal it, if I may.
Yes, of course.
Thank you. And I've got you on record for that. So what are the signals that are going to get something recruited for each of the three, for LLM, search engines, and knowledge graphs? Because the key here, as you said earlier on, it's gates. Missing the recruitment gate means you're then out of the game for grounding and display. And one.
Yeah, for sure. And I think one of the interesting things that we see changing in this new evolving world is that less is more. And I think that for the last 20 years, we've treated the internet as an infinite space. And so companies large and small have prioritized quantity over quality. They have published lots of, frankly, uninteresting, mediocre blog posts. They have put up pages about teeth whitening and uninteresting pages about the services they offer. And as a result, many of these websites are bland and undifferentiated. And even the bits that are meant to be interesting, like their blogs, their resources, their help hubs, were driven by SEO and spreadsheets of keywords and don't really say or mean or feel anything as a result. And I think one of the things that we'll have to change if we want our websites to be recruited and considered and evaluated and winning, etc., is for them to be genuinely differentiated, interesting. Like Google has EEAT standards and LLMs have similar stuff, etc. But there's this kind of bigger point that the internet is full and almost all of it is garbage, and it's getting more full because the cost of producing 1 million pages is now nothing. And search engines and LLMs have to be more considered in that first stage of what do we call, what do we index, what do we render, but then also the next stage of what do we want to keep, how do we want to choose which ones we show in which result sets, how do we filter stuff out of that, And yeah, if you're a dentist wanting to compete, then having an average page about teeth whitening is no longer enough. So I think every business needs to start saying there is a cost to every URL and every page we have, because at scale, it's going to drag down our average and our reputation, etc. How do we have fewer pages that are better? And how do we make sure that every single one of those isn't just good content, whatever that means, but is it opinionated? Is it differentiated? Is it genuinely different from what our competitors are saying in this space? And if Google only, or ChatGPT only had to pick one result from this entire sector or problem space, why is this one better? And that doesn't mean more words and more chunking. It means actually evaluating it and saying, can we improve this? Is it better? Is it interesting? Is it fun? Is it upsetting? Is it divisive? Is it anything other than just words on a page? And nobody's really there yet. I think getting beyond words on a page is the next level.
Right. Yeah. And is it new? That's another good one. I mean, I was talking to Corey Gabor about topical authority, and part of it is I'm saying, if you're providing new information on your topic, you're expanding your field, you have two things. Number one is you're giving something new, but you also have the problem, and we can come to this in a moment with grounding, of being seen to be wrong.
yes.
Or perceived,
finding
rather.
That point of alignment on consensus versus differentiation is tricky in an LLM age. Yes, definitely.
Because that brings us to grounding, because the idea of being used in, let's say, 200 URLs or 200 chunks of content have been used to evaluate whether or not this is actually the right answer and it's a safe answer to give, the preferred answer to give, of which 4 or 5 are shown as links.
Yep.
And the world right now appears to be obsessed by citations, getting that link, being one of the 4 from the 200, let's say, that are grounded. Yep. That seems to me to be a pretty pointless battle in multiple respects.
Yeah, I think this is the SEO industry desperately trying to apply yesterday's reporting models to today, right? You go, okay, so there are fewer clicks, so impressions are more important. Our impressions are all broken. Let's try and get citations instead. And it's the same. How do we design a very simple funnel that we can use to report to the C-suite that shows some kind of like, we got 10 of these and 4 of those and 2 of those, keep paying us? I don't think it makes a huge amount of sense. I don't think there is an easy answer to what good or better looks like, but it's certainly not trying to double down on counting all of those citations. I think it's probably far closer to, I don't know, what does 1950s advertising look like, where you're running large-scale market surveys on brand salience. That kind of thing, I think, becomes far more interesting again. And you can do simulated versions of that, maybe, but...
Well, no, sorry, I'm going to have Neil Murty from Google on as well. And he's looking into measurement. And I was chatting with him about micro versus macro. What you've just described is macro. And my argument here in my series on Search Engine Land is to say, well, we used to be micro. I'm an economist. So with micro, you could measure everything. You're the little corner shop. Now you have to go macro, and you need to create, measuring inflation is my example, your basket of goods, measure it over time so you compare like with like. And Neil is also saying exactly what you're saying, which is let's look at it more like traditional marketing with market research. Please go ahead.
Nice. No, lovely. That's it, I think. And that's not a thing SEO has ever done, because we've been obsessed with these kind of artificial representations of reality where we pretended that clicks were equivalent to growth when it's never really lined up, because most of those clicks were to our terrible blog posts. And then you attract 1,000 visitors and you hope that you can bully 2% of them into converting. It was never sophisticated. It was never real. I think, if we are forced as a result of this to say, actually, we should start to care about what people think about us and whether they recognize our logo and what are our respective strengths and weaknesses in the market versus our competitors at a product level and a pricing and positioning level, rather than in terms of our blog posts. I think that elevates us all when we start to do more meaningful marketing. And then all of the which prompts do we get which citations for, all trend in the right direction, because and the same thing we were just saying, like the objective is change the behavior and perspectives of people to influence how the machine perceives you, etc. It's the same thing. If you do all the good marketing, you get recommended more by LLMs. There's no rocket science there. It's because it's a reflection of people's preference and behavior.
Brilliant. I love that. That's so beautifully said. And with the grounding, just out of my own curiosity, if I'm in the 196 chunks of content that were considered but not chosen for the citations, what possible use is that to me as a business?
That's a great question. I guess it validates that systems know that your URL exists. Is that valuable?
Yep.
But there's also cost to you, right? Which is interesting, because it means that at some point that system has come and extracted your content and done whatever it has with it and disregarded it. That costs you in server costs and overhead, but also opportunity costs, and it's going to inflate all your metrics in weird ways, or maybe you miss it entirely because you're not tracking it properly. Either way, it's going to create noise, and you're going to employ an analyst to go and evaluate that noise, and they're not going to come up with any answers. So I think it's probably a net drain. I think this constant kind of, I was sort of evaluated and then disregarded, is going to be not a pleasant place to be stuck in.
Right, brilliant. And Reddit comes in there a lot because Reddit keeps getting cited as this huge source, but a lot of it is just grounding.
Yes. And I wonder if Reddit is a short-term thing. Like at the moment, it is the big de facto voice of the community source. I wonder how long until Google and others get better at, I don't know, there must be a really great forum for dentists or for plumbers, and we start to be a bit more nuanced with that. You see bits of that. And certainly there were experiments a few years ago with Google looking more at, what do they call it? There was a whole period where they over-featured like community discussions and things in the search results, and it was awful. But maybe a more sophisticated revisit of that, where you go, a lot of this grounding, actually what it's trying to find is humans discussing and saying, yes, this one is good. No, that one is not open on Tuesdays. Yes, that one is expensive, yada, yada. And there have to be better places than Reddit. But because Reddit is so big and there's so much of that there, it's a sensible starting place.
Right, brilliant. Okay, super. So on to display. Is that, for me, that's the funnel. That's where I started with the Kalicube process 10 years ago, whatever it was, saying awareness, consideration, decision. I'm saying start at the bottom of the funnel, build up for the machines, even though humans come from the top of the funnel, awareness through consideration, decision. You need to build understandability, credibility, then deliverability, because if it doesn't understand who you are, you need to develop the credibility. Sorry, you can't develop credibility if it hasn't understood who you are, and it won't advocate for you at the top of the funnel if it doesn't believe you're a credible solution to the problems it's understood.
Lovely. Yes.
Oh, right, that's it.
Yeah. No, I really like that. And I think that that's not the way businesses think or website owners think, right? You kind of iterate through time and you shout loudly and you hope you can attract enough people in that then you can build a reputation, etc. But yeah, the model is very much the other way up. And if you want to sell a blue widget, yes, of course, the behavior and the desire for businesses is to say, we want to shout at people when they're already in the funnel at the point of purchase, because that's the most efficient way to advertise, etc. But you can't access those people unless you've already proven that you 6 months ago were the right fit for helping them understand why they needed a blue widget in the first place, or to become aware that blue widgets are even a category. And so much of SEO is mis-executed as if it were advertising. And it's, how do we find the keywords that best convert? How do we write the blog post that best nudges people over the barrier? And it completely fails to consider these systems by design are trying to help people to solve their problems. And that's almost always way higher up the funnel, whatever that is, up the journey, earlier in the decision cycle. And for many of those users, they would never have had bought from you anyway, but you still have to demonstrate that you're a good fit and you're helpful, etc., in order to then be relevant and recommended at the point for that much smaller set of people who you are a good fit for. So I think the idea has to be that SEO has to address the entire addressable market. I know Josh Schultz talks about this a lot. It's not enough just to go after this small segment of highly converting keywords. You have to go much higher and broader and prove that you're right and good and valuable in order to access the subset, if you want to convince the machines that you're the right fit. And that's not how businesses think.
Right. Really, really well put. And my mate Claude was telling me the other day that AIDA was invented by, I think it was somebody called Lewis. The nice thing about AI is I don't actually have to read all his books. Was in 1896.
Wow.
So the funnel has been top to bottom for 130 years.
Yeah.
And
because it was based on interruption marketing and shouting, it was, I will stand in the street and wave a pamphlet and I will try and shout at enough passers-by that I can get a subset of them to cross my threshold so that I can then control the narrative and influence how they think, and then get a subset of them to buy. Yeah. And now suddenly you go, actually, there are omniscient machine gatekeepers in that process that mean I can no longer shout at the audience. I can't reach the audience. unless I've already proven to that machine that I am a good candidate to solve their problem. And yet business has not woken up to this inversion yet.
Yeah, I mean, you expressed that incredibly well. I'm saying we flip the funnel. You have to flip the funnel if you want the machines to recommend you to the subset of their users who are your audience.
Yep, 100%.
The very last part then is the one moment, i.e., I've managed to get the machine to recommend me, and I've managed to get the machine to put me in front of the audience. We have three possibilities. Nice. In search, you have the imperfect click, i.e., the user chooses from 10. In the assistive engine, like AI mode, let's say, you have the perfect click, where there's one option, you click on it, you buy. And that's what Fabrice Canel from Bing talks about. And then you have the agentic click, where the agent is buying. So for me, those are the three different engines: search, assistive, and agential. And they're the three different types of click: the imperfect click, the perfect click, and the agentic click. Give me your thoughts on that.
I really like that. I like the distinction. I think there's a fourth. There was some stuff came out of Google a couple of weeks ago about a cross-site agnostic agentic checkout. So, and the example they gave was, I'm building a new computer. Like, the examples are always really weird and really geeky. I'm building a new computer and I need, I don't know, a graphics card, a motherboard. What else does a computer have? Bits. And the example they had was, yeah, keyboard, definitely. The example they had was, I do a bunch of searching and I get a mix of traditional results, agentic stuff, blah, blah, exactly the kind of three outcomes you've described. But I never visit the website. I just click add to cart from the SERP. And across multiple sites and multiple domains and multiple brands, I'm building an e-commerce checkout cart. And then two really interesting things happen. One is it monitors all of the pricing and availability. So it will say, oh, actually, you could have got this cheaper here, or actually, this one's out of stock. Do you want me to remind you because you prefer this brand because we see your email history? And the other thing that was super interesting is it says there's a little agent involved in it that says, oh, actually, the graphics card that you selected isn't compatible with the motherboard you selected. Do you want to get this one instead from this site? It's $20 more expensive. And what you have now is even if you win and you're visible and you get the click, a lot of that behavior, certainly for e-commerce, now happens kind of in the search results, but without you ever being seen. Super interesting. And I think it means that even if you win, you still have to be either the cheapest or the best, or have the best reputation, or be open on Tuesdays, or have the best delivery, or have a form with the web MCP option so that the thing can engage with you directly, whatever else that is. There's like a whole nother phase emerging here, which is going to complicate things even more.
Right. Messy. I'm going to leave it there because that was absolutely perfect. Thank you so much, Jono.
Cool. Thank you.